with the series on Netflix, Schitt's Creek?
Yes.
Who's your favorite character?
David, hands down.
Oh, yeah.
So that's how we operate here. Okay. Yeah.
Done.
Thank you for having me. My name is Caballes. I'm a non-surgical sports medicine physician serving the Denver-Boulder area. Did my training out in New York at NYU and then moved to Colorado about 5 years ago, where I've grown my practice here with Cornerstone Orthopaedics. And my focus is on non-surgical treatment for orthopedic conditions, from everything ranging from your elite athlete to your recreational athlete or your aging population. And one of my special focuses on using ultrasound for diagnostics and for treatment, for interventions, and I have a particular interest in endurance athletes as well, treating runners, which is a big part of my practice. So I actually got accepted to be one of the volunteer physicians at the training center in Colorado Springs, and I was actually supposed to do my first rotation last August, prior to COVID. So that's on delay for right now.
Nice. And USA certified coach, I saw.
I did, yeah. That was kind of on a whim. I started to see a lot of athletes who were asking questions about return to run, and I just couldn't find like a good formula. So that's why I did my USA track and field certification, so I can get a better understanding of the sport.
Okay. This way's uphill. It's gonna be a little harder. Coming down is gonna feel a little nicer. I want you to break it up into 3 or 4s, so the first 3 or 4, you're gonna be super cold, it's gonna be awful, it's gonna take you a while to get warmed up. Then the next 3 or 4, we're kind of in that 10K-ish effort. And then the last 3 to 4, we're gonna start picking it up, okay? You feel good. Boulder Underground, and even all the groups in Boulder, there's a wide range of abilities, beginners to elite athletes and Olympians and stuff. And I guess a question for me to you, I guess, is pretty basic in that, like, what's the overall benefits of running? As a physician, what gets you excited when a patient tells you, oh, I'm starting to get active, I'm getting out and running?
Yeah, so like the overall benefits for running, and it's such a great sport. It's free, and so anyone can do it, and it's a really great community. I've found that whenever I meet beginners to elite athletes, everyone has the same mentality. They all just want to do the best for themselves and just be healthy. It's great because there's cardiovascular benefits. There's preventing obesity, diabetes, and these conditions. You don't have to do a lot to get the health benefits. Simple 30 minutes, a couple days a week for people is enough to maintain health. It's also great because it's a very positive community where everyone tries to help each other. So that's one of the things that gets me excited when I see an athlete or even someone who's just starting out running. It's exciting because I share that same thing. I didn't compete in college or anything. I picked it up on a whim in medical school because I had some free time, and I lived near a park, and that's how I started. Anyone can do that.
That's kind of where the next question I was going to go is I try to read every study and article I can, and a lot of the community-focused stuff you mentioned there, a lot of depression, anxiety, and stuff. Have been tied to somewhat of a lack of community sometimes. Any take on that?
Yeah, totally. Especially it's especially sensitive in these times where we're all in isolation and not able to get out and do the things you normally want to do. So there's a rise in mental health issues and just people feeling alone, like they have no help. And so you don't have to even be running with a group of people. If you have a friend who runs, you can communicate about that. Hey, did you check out my Strava today? Yeah, you did a great job, and stuff like that. It's a great community. Or you can safely do this outside, and just have someone to really push you along on those days that you just don't want to go out, and that can be a huge benefit for people mentally, just getting exercise, getting outdoors.
Your background in sports medicine and injuries, what would you say to the beginner? What are the biggest things they gotta look out for?
Yeah, that's an awesome and a loaded question. So for beginners, I'd say the most common thing I would say is doing too much too soon, and just not having or being prepared for the skill of running. So, for example, like we look at other sports like soccer, where you learn basic fundamentals. How do you dribble a ball? How do you defend? How do you kick a ball? But you don't see that same skill development involved in running. So a lot of times runners that I see who are just starting out just kind of go for it, which is, again, it's great because you can. But with that, then I get a lot of people who all they do is run. There's no variability in training.
No lateral movements.
No lateral movements. No strength training. And I'll get the beginner athlete who walks in, and it's actually kind of interesting because I've seen a lot of that during COVID, where a very common thing I've seen in my clinic is, my gym closed down, so I figured I'd just start running, which is awesome. But then they develop new injuries because all they do is run.
So I need to get that agility ladder out.
Yeah,
I knew it.
Exactly. And so I always encourage people, think about the skills involved that you need to run. You need good dynamic core strength, good hip strength, good foot stability. Basically from the bottom up, you need to have good support. And I definitely see a lot of people who neglect that, or maybe don't do any sort of strength training. Newsflash, that hill training does not count as strength training. So I see that a lot. So if I would say, what do people do? It's doing too much too soon, not preparing to handle the load involved in running, and then just not including that variability to keep your body doing different things. Your body likes to have different movements, different planes of movement.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, given all the things a beginner should look out for, what sort of recommendations do you have for someone just starting out running to do?
Yeah, I'd say number one, try not to be too rigid. If it doesn't feel good that day, that's okay to skip a run.
Taking days off when you need them.
Take a day off when you need it. Recognize that. Do something else that keeps you healthy that day. Whether that be rest or biking or whatever. The other thing I'd probably say is try not to fall into fads. I think a lot of beginners run into, I read this thing in, Runner's World, and now I want to do this particular workout or wear this particular shoe, and that might work great for that individual, but it may not work for you. So just kind of see what feels right to you and what feels good. Running, if you think about what's involved in running, your body sees 2 to 3 times your body weight with each stride.
Every time your foot's slamming on the ground.
Yeah, exactly. So doing a body weight exercise doesn't necessarily prepare you for that particular load. So I encourage people to get in the gym, get someone to watch you work out, learn basic fundamental movements, things that prepare you for that kind of load. Specifically, I would say, what do you need? You need good core strength. When I prescribe core strength for runners, I'm usually not prescribing, typically not prescribing like static stuff like planks or things like that. Again, those are great, but for running, I like people having new dynamic work. So like when I get a beginner runner who's coming into my clinic for the first time, one of the things I like to have them do is I put a foam roller on the ground, and I have them rest their knees on top, and have them head with their feet hovering off the ground, and go into a bird dog position. So if anyone's done yoga, that's where you're basically on all fours. You extend your leg and then your opposite arm out, and you alternate sides. And I love that because it really wakes people up to say, oh, my core is not as strong as I think it is, because I'm tipping over when I do this exercise. So I have them start with that kind of stuff. Work on hip stability and strength. When we talk about stability, like rotational plane movements, diagonal movements, multiple planes, because your body when you run, it doesn't just see forward play movements; it sees twisting forces and things like that. So, and then start once they're stable. Have them start increasing load. Strength training, deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts is one of my favorite exercises for runners because it strengthens your posterior chain, which is like your glutes, your hamstrings, your calves, and it gives you a lot of power for running. So those are some of the tips I usually give runners: is focus on mobility, stability, and strength.
Runners are always looking for additional resources. Any books or websites or anything that you highly recommend to check out?
Yeah, there's a ton of great resources. Some of my favorites. I'm a huge fan of physical therapy literature, and Jay Deshar is probably one of my favorite.
Running Rewired.
Running Rewired, Anatomy for Runners. I've had the pleasure of meeting him and working with him before, and
same as well. I got the MOBO Board.
So
yeah,
it's so funny. I think
he's that big toe.
Every runner in Boulder, I think, has like a MOBO Board after coming to my office. And I kind of joke with him, like, dude, you need to give me a cut. Running Rewired, one of my favorite resources. Podium Runner has a lot of good information on there. Podcasts, I love podcasts, and they're great to listen to while running. I really like Physio Edge. They're great. It's a lot of expert physiologists, physical therapists from Australia. Who are pretty expert on tendinopathy. Chris Johnson is another one of my favorites. I probably could go on and on in terms of just injury prevention stuff and just knowledge from experience, but also kind of thinking about you asked about the mental side of running. So I love books that address that. Some of the two that I'm reading right now are Comeback Quotient and Bravey.
Really good ones. You read Grit by Angela?
That's
Pepper?
on my list.
That's another good one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on my list.
Perfect. You guys, great job today. Sometimes with the weather, we just have to switch stuff around, and to be honest, I think it worked out a little better. A lot of people were a little zapped coming in anyway, so backing off a little I think was good. And Wyatt's back. I'm super excited. Just so you guys know, Wyatt's on that group text, and I don't know what.
One with 1,000 messages.
Yeah.
Every
Wyatt,
day.
do you have an Android?
Yeah.
No, I have an app.
You're
Gotta silence it after 9 p.m.
Good.
So welcome back, Wyatt.
So much.
I wish I could.
We're allowed to do it.
They sing really well.
Also, Dr. Caballes is here. Wanted to introduce you guys. He's going to be a great resource for, and I just pronounced it wrong again. He's going to be a great resource for anyone that needs it. He's actually right near me in downtown Superior there, so you already have a place to park to walk down and see him. I'll let him say a quick word if you want. So
Yeah, no, let's be super quick. Thanks for having me out here. I work as a non-surgical sports medicine physician at Cornerstone Orthopaedics. I hope to not see you in that setting, but if I do, Matt has my number. It's a tight community out here with runners and stuff, so I let you guys have my cell phone. Just shoot me a text. That's the best way to get in, and then try to help you out if you need it.